Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another exciting night of NBA basketball.
The Pistons are digging in. They got the depth. They got the big men. They got the better basketball team. No doubt about it.
Pistons need a three, and they have just under 3 seconds to do it. Here's Chauncey Billups. Here it is. He's got it. He's got it. Chauncey Billups hits the three. Overtime. Amazing.
Out of bounds. Detroit basketball.
Pistons fans, welcome back to the Palace of Pistons Podcast, part of the Believe Network. I'm your host, Mike Anguilano. Joining me is Jasper Apollonia. Jasper, how are we feeling with Cade Cunningham's first All-Star just announced about an hour and a half ago?
Feeling really good about it, Mike, and welcome to you as well. It's an exciting moment for Detroit Pistons fans. This is only the, fourth All-Star they've had since Allen Iverson in the 2008-2009 season. They had 2 years of Andre Drummond, 1 year of Blake Griffin, and now Cade Cunningham is officially an All-Star for the Detroit Pistons. This is their first homegrown All-Star, obviously, like before Drummond. I believe the last one before that would have been Grant Hill, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my.
Yeah, I mean, crazy to think.
Yeah, nothing's coming to mind to dispute that.
all of, Rip, Chauncey, and Wallace's, those guys were all, acquired. Allen Houston didn't make an All-Star team in Detroit, and besides, he would have made it after before Grant Hill, I believe. So yeah, Grant Hill is the last homegrown Pistons All-Star. It goes Hill, then Drummond, then Cade. So this is a pretty big moment for this franchise, to be honest with you. This is not a franchise that finds themselves stumbling into all-star talent every year. Forget it.
Right.
Every year, not even every decade. So this is a big moment for Detroit Pistons fans, big moment for the franchise, and a really, really exciting and perhaps most importantly, well-deserved selection for Cade Cunningham.
Yes, we're going to talk about the All-Star selection reserves and Cade, obviously, as well. But before we do that, I do want to thank this week's sponsor, and that is BetOnline. And the biggest betting weekend of the year is finally here, which means more updated odds and props for Super Sunday. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of prop bets and MVP odds, exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make game day action count a little bit more. They actually misspelled their own ad read. That's kind of interesting. BetOnline, the game starts here. I will be betting for Super Bowl Sunday. Somebody who probably won't be betting is fellow Ohio and Terry Rozier.
Well, not anymore, at least.
Not anymore.
That's somewhat of a I wouldn't say puzzling situation, because there's actually nothing confusing about it whatsoever.
No,
I think
at all.
Anybody who understands anything about human nature could have seen this coming. With legalized gambling and all of that. But luckily for you folks at home, BetOnline's, oh my God, BetOnline lines are more accurate than their pros. Good news for you folks. I definitely am going to be placing a little something on the Super Bowl myself. I can't help it. I know I just went off and was like, well, legalized gambling does this, but you know what? I'm no better than anybody else out there.
But you are a better.
Yes, that is exactly it. And I'm certainly not a better than anybody out there either.
No, definitely not. Yes, we don't give betting advice, and that's, by design. But let's talk about the Eastern Conference. Nate, well, we could talk about both if you really want to, but the Eastern Conference All-Star reserves, which were just announced by TNT. Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Giannis will be the starters. That was already announced a week ago at this point, but the reserves are what we're going to be talking about. Darius Garland, Cade Cunningham, Jaylen Brown, Pascal Siakam, Evan Mobley, Damian Lillard, and Tyler Hero are the all-star reserves for the Eastern Conference. So Cade is, he made it over some guys who are or have been perennial all-star type players. Uh, and he made it over the guy who was the leading vote getter in the Eastern Conference in LaMelo Ball. And the other all-star that I was referring to was Trae Young, who did not make it. And, maybe that's a controversial take. But what are your thoughts on Cade coming out on top over those two guys? And we've talked about it all year that he's been a deserving all-star, but what are your thoughts on, him officially making it? This seems to be the leap that I think many of us expected probably last season.
Yeah, certainly. And we've gotten it this year. We've seen it. This is a deserved all-star selection for Cade. I think you could make an argument for somebody like Trae Young, could make an argument for somebody like LaMelo Ball, but the first guy that you would kick off that list wouldn't be Cade Cunningham. It probably would be, say, Tyler Hero. And I think that is a big thing in and of itself. Like Cade fully deserved this all-star selection. I mean, quickly, I understand why it's Hero and not Trae Young or LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball has only played 31 games. Both Darius Garland and Tyler Hero have both played 45 this year. Excuse me. They've played 14 more games than him. I think just based on availability and where those teams are in the standings, I I fully see why you would take them over a LaMelo Ball. And in regards to Trae Young, I think that's probably the one that you could really say is most of a snub, like a real snub. But I also understand why he didn't make it because everybody else in that All-Star reserve team is a point guard. So they had to have, I think, at least one shooting guard. That's where Hero comes in. And it's not like he's like a sympathy. This is not like a Jamal Mashburn, Jamal McGlure situation. This is not a Wally Zerbiak situation. The NBA is so deep with all-star level talent that even if you can make an argument for Trae Young, you can make an equal argument for someone like Tyler Hero. His team's above Trae Young's in the standings. He is shooting just ridiculously well from the floor this year. He's averaging like what, 25 points on 40% shooting.
47%.
47%.
On the floor, yeah.
Been an absolute flamethrower at the end of games. Like he's been the biggest reason, more so than Jimmy Butler, more so than Bam Adebayo, that the Heat are not even in the play-in right now, and they're not a very good team. So to me, I don't see this as like a snub. I think the same thing is true in the West. Like I think you can make an argument for Kyrie Irving and Devin Booker over, say, Jalen Williams from OKC. But I also, again, like understand OKC is probably the best team in the league. They deserve to have two All-Stars. Same thing goes for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics. Like if you're that good, you should have multiple All-Stars. So yeah, I think for me, looking at it, it's not just that Cade made it. It's that he made it solidly. And I don't really think there's much of a question whether he deserved to be in there. So very, very exciting stuff. Like it's just cool to see. Like, and especially after all this talk that's been going on this season around Cade, him being an all-star, potentially all-NBA, potentially MVP votes, it's just gratifying to see that all that talk hasn't been just talk. It's come through. And it's really, lastly, I think happening at the perfect time because we have seen, in my opinion, Cade getting worn down a little bit over these last few games since Jaden Ivey went out. His legs have gone a little bit. Like he's shooting really poorly from three. He's shooting 23% from three over his last 6 games. I just think you're starting to see him get a little tired with this massive workload he's carrying. So,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of happening at the perfect time to where his efficiency is around what a lot of those other guys are. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see it slip in the next coming weeks a little bit more noticeably, but that remains to be seen.
Yeah, even against the Cavs, he shot really poorly against the Cavs, and Aaron and I did the playback for that, which, just another shameless plug. We are now dabbling in playback to try to watch some Pistons games live. But even in that game, he was missing at the front of the rim, which is normally dead leg territory when you're short. You're not getting as much lift on the ball. You could definitely see it. And like you had said in our group chat, this is the easiest team in the NBA to guard right now because they are so Cade centric. And to put up the numbers that he's put up, even with that, is still very impressive. And by the way, Tyler Herro is averaging 24, 5.5, and 5.5. I mean, it's not a nothing burger of a stat line, and he is helping to keep also a piston killer. Goodness gracious, at least this year.
Well, he's been a piston killer throughout his career, but he's been killing everybody this year. That's really what it is, man.
Yeah,
He's killing everybody offensively. Like he still can't guard a lick, but it doesn't really
nope.
matter when you have a guy who can hit, 6 threes in the fourth quarter. That's cheat code right there, and it's covered up for a lot of really bad play from the
Right.
Heat this season. So I don't have an issue with the Tyler Hero selection. I really don't.
So
Nor would
with
I have if it was the other way around and it had been Trey and not Tyler Hero. I equally would not have had an issue with it. I think
yeah,
that's worth saying as well.
yeah, yeah, they're pretty similar. But you can make an argument for both, and you can make an argument for a lot of these guys who were snubbed. We'll talk about the Western Conference and the snubs maybe at the end if we have some time. But back to Cade. Um, this to me feels like almost a breath of or like a sigh of relief for the organization that just got beat up so badly last year by the public, by national pundits who didn't watch a Pistons game, they just watched the losing streak. This seems like a total organizational win. They went from bottom of the barrel, having no all-stars, to being a playoff team. And look, after the Heat trade Jimmy Butler and the Hawks now are going to be without Jalen Johnson, I'm getting the pen out and putting the Pistons in the playoffs at this point. Maybe not the playoffs, maybe the play in. I think they've solidified themselves in that they're not going to fall below that. Brooklyn is going to continue to tank. And, they're in this position largely because of Cade, but really it's an organizational win to see him represent the Pistons in the All-Star game. This feels like a full like retribution from the Monty Williams disaster of last year.
No question. It's a huge bounce back. And honestly, I would have penciled them in as a lock for the play in even before any of those other situations occurred. I don't see them possibly falling past 10th. Like I just don't think Philly, Toronto, Brooklyn, I don't think any of those teams were going to overtake Detroit, even without Jaden Ivey, even with perhaps another injury to somebody not named Cade Cunningham. I still think the Pistons pretty much a lock for the play in. I think at this point if they could get Jaden Ivey back before the season, yeah, they probably are a lock for the playoffs at that point. So yeah, this is a big thing for Detroit. I think it says a lot about where they are more than just where Cade is, but like they've gained back the respect of the general public. They've gained back the respect of the players, of the coaches, and I think that is something you can't overlook. Like this is a franchise now that is once again looked at as legitimate and they're being spoken about as a legitimate franchise on the upswing. And this is all we've asked for the last couple of years. This is all we've wanted. It's just show us how we're moving forward in this rebuilding process. Trajan Langdon put the pieces around Cade Cunningham this offseason in order to accentuate his skill set, and it's paid off so far. It remains to be seen how far they can take it this year, how far Cade can take it. But as of right now, I think you still have to be very, very hopeful, even with Jaden Ivey still being out, even with this recent kind of rough stretch. I mean, the game against Indiana last night or 2 nights ago, for when you folks at home are watching this, that was pretty ugly. They've had some ugly games here, and I think when you look at some of Cade's numbers in those games, some of it is fatigue, and some of it is just like I said, they are so easy to guard right now because they have nobody else on the roster who can create. So, they're kind of forced to be a very, very Cade-centric team at this point. They kind of can only win rock fights. Like those are the games they win. The Atlanta game, the Houston game, like they can win those. When a team like the Pacers is shooting lights out from three, they don't have the firepower to keep up as of right now, especially unless, Tobias Harris and not Jalen Duren, unless Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley are like all hitting threes and Cade's also doing his thing. They just don't have it other than that. But yeah, it's just cool to have Cade in here. And I think we need to really appreciate how much he has grown as a player this year, as a leader, but also how good of a job the organization has done to put him into this position. I think if they want to continue his upward trajectory, what they need to do now is get him some help, because you're looking at a lot of those other guys who are selected for all-star teams and they have help on their teams. Cade does not. Even Tyler Hero, for now, has a Jimmy Butler, has a Bam Adebayo. Cade doesn't have a whole lot. You're talking about Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris, and God bless those guys. They've been useful, but that's not quite the same thing now, is it?
No, it's not. So what are your expectations for Cade the rest of the way? Assuming that Jaden Ivey doesn't come back. I've seen conflicting things. I've seen some people say, oh, it's 4 to 6 weeks and he's reevaluated. I've seen other people say, oh, he's 4 to 6 weeks and then he's going to be reevaluated, and it's not going to be he's game ready. It's going to be, yeah, he can walk again, or it's not going to be like that. So let's just say that Ivey's out for the rest of the season. What are your expectations for Cade, given he's an all-star, given the Pistons are firmly in the playoff picture? What are you hoping and expecting to see out of him the rest of the way?
Yeah, for me, I'm expecting to see, again, this is without Jaden Ivey. I'm expecting to see a pretty close approximation of what we've been seeing from him since Jaden Ivey went down. I think you're going to see scoring around that 26, 27 points per game mark. I think you're going to see his assists closer to like that 8.5 per game mark. And I think you're going to see his rebounding numbers go down as well, because it's going to be so crucial for him to receive the ball going up the court versus being able to secure the rebound and then pass it off to Jaden Ivey. So his rebounding numbers are going to go down. I think his assist numbers are going to go down a little bit. I think his scoring numbers are going to go up a little bit. I think the main thing you're going to really see, though, is, those turnovers are going to be pretty high. He was doing a good job of it after the first few weeks of getting it under 4 per game. Now you're seeing it close to 5 per game. And I have a hard time seeing that really be all that different. Efficiency wise, I don't think it's going to be that crazy different. Like, I think his 3-point shooting is going to suffer. Yes. But I think he's going to be fine from 2. Like, I still think he's improved, if anything, at the basket as the season has gone on. He's done a better job of drawing foul calls. He's done a better job of finishing as of late. I have noticed that. And his free throw shooting is going up as well. Like, he started off the season shooting really poorly from the free throw line. Lately, he's been money from there. So I think the efficiency is going to be maybe a little bit lower, but not significantly so. It's really going to be the turnovers and the scoring where you're going to see the difference. So yeah, I still expect him to be an all-star level producer. I still expect him to be in those all-NBA talks. And frankly, if they don't get back Jaden Ivey, and he is putting up that kind of production, and they are in the playoffs, not just in the play-in, but the playoffs, I have a hard time seeing, an argument against him being in that third team all-NBA spot. Not saying he's a lock for it, but I'm saying, like, there's not going to be a really good case to keep him out. There might be,
Right.
It'll be like these all-star teams. Like, there's not a great case to keep Trae Young out of the all-star game, but there's cases you can make for other guys. So that's what I expect from Cade.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm more of the same. The turnovers are going to continue to be high as long as he's the primary ball handler. Now, if they go get a backup ball handler who can take some pressure off him or let him play, some 2, then that's different. That would lead to the efficiency going up. That would lead to fewer turnovers, and his scoring would probably go up too when he doesn't have to be the primary ball handler every single possession. And teams are going to hone in on that. Any other thoughts on the All-Star game selections, Western Conference, Eastern Conference, before we wrap up this short little All-Star pop-up podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I mean, you talk about Cade, how much he's being used right now. 35.5% usage since Jaden Ivey went down. That I
Wow.
believe would be second in the league behind LaMelo Ball. Um, for
Not
the year.
all-star LaMelo Ball.
That's right, not all-star LaMelo Ball. So I think for me that's pretty significant. 35.5 is pretty crazy. And a 43.3 assist percentage. Like he's got to do it all for him right now. Yeah, Western Conference, like I said, I think Jalen Williams is the one that I'm a little about. I do think Booker and Kyrie Irving should have probably made it over him if we're just looking at the on-court play alone. If you take team record out of it, I understand why he made it when you put in team record. Same thing kind of goes for James Harden. Um, although for me, I think Harden deserves it more just because he has been the entire Clippers offense
Yeah.
this year. Like their
And
offense isn't great.
that's not a
but
bad team either.
no, they're what, the 6th seed right now?
Yeah, they're playing well.
Yeah, they're not even in the play-in, and I think most people coming into this year, when you heard about Kawhi Leonard's injury, were looking at them as being like probably not even in the play-in, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like that people were thinking this is going to be one of the worst, not the worst, but one of the bottom 10 or so teams in the NBA. They're certainly not that. I know his numbers don't look as good as like Booker and Kyrie's, but I think when you put the situation into context, I would have him there. I think it's deserved.
For me, Sabonis probably had a case. He's the only player in NBA
But
history to be averaging 14 boards and 6 assists
but who are you
per
gonna
game.
are you gonna take out Sengun? Like
Well,
that's another thing.
well,
Like he drives so much of what they do, and they're the 2 seed.
I know it's hard. You're right. It's hard, and that team's not good. That's a team that's falling apart right in front of everyone's eyes. They're about to lose their two best guards in like 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
It's just tough. Like the
it's tough.
NBA
It's deep.
is so talented right now,
It's
man.
deep. Yeah,
I genuinely can't remember another like time in my lifetime where you looked at the All-Star rosters and they were this loaded, man.
yeah, yeah. Definitely loaded. Well,
I
we're
mean,
gonna get to watch Cade. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying, like, think about those like early, like mid, late 2000s. Like the fact that Allen Iverson was on the All-Star
Yeah,
team in 0809, that guy wouldn't even like that version of Allen Iverson would not even get a vote for the All-Star. Like it
probably
wouldn't even
not.
be a question. That guy wouldn't even be in contention for it. So
Right.
it's crazy how talented the
It's a
NBA.
good product across the league. I mean, LaMelo Ball didn't make it. He was the leading vote getter for the fans. So, it's a very good time to be a fan of the NBA. There's a lot of really great players, um, and a lot of deserving all-stars. And this year, Cade finally, rises up to that rank to be named an all-star. The first of what should be many all-star games for Cade Cunningham moving forward.
Would you have
I
taken
know.
us? Would you have taken Sabonis over Sengun or
Hmm,
anybody else in that front court?
good question. Prob, well, I think you're right on the Jalen Williams front. I mean, I can't take him over Wemby. I can't take him over Jaren Jackson Jr. just because of the defensive stardom. And then Anthony Davis, has been healthy and very good all season. I don't think you have a case for that either. So probably not. I think Jalen Williams is the guy that you could think of like, but you're right on the money there that he's so important to what the Thunder do that it's like you can't leave him out either. So probably not. Maybe if the Kings were better, you'd have a better argument, but they're just kind of floundering, falling apart. But again, it's super deep. I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. is so good. He's so underrated by the average fan who doesn't watch and tune into Grizzlies games. His
Dude,
impact on both ends is just crazy.
I've always been a big Triple J guy. I do remember when 18 draft, Luca was my number one. He was my number two. I was wrong on that. He probably should have been 3 or 4, but SGA, not a bad pick.
Not a bad pick.
Not a bad pick for your number two. But yeah, I mean, I just he's been tremendous, and I think that's another reason why you have to be excited about Cade making it is just how deep the NBA is right now. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like you could like Blake Griffin obviously was going to be an all-star, but you think about those two Andre Drummond selections, another guy who in this NBA would not sniff would not sniff an all-star team.
Nope.
So I think it just goes to show, like not all all-star selections are created equal. This is a very, very impressive selection for Cade Cunningham.
Absolutely.
Very impressive. So people should be really excited.
Yeah, they should be excited, and hopefully they'll be tuning in to watch Cade in the All-Star game. I know we have a couple more weeks, like the 17th or something, or the 16th.
And
yeah, we have a few
hopefully
more weeks.
hopefully they'll tune in to us on playback while we watch Cade play basketball in between now and then. Yes?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Aaron and I did that the other night. It was a lot of fun watching Cavs and Pistons. We're going to keep trying to do that. So definitely be on the lookout for posts about that on social media. Or if you're already on playback, I know a lot of people in the NBA community already have playback and already use it. Go and search us, join our room so that you'll know when we go live. We're not making any money on this or anything. It's just another way for us to interact with all of you. And it's a lot of fun.
And you know what? People hate dead air. So if I'm on there, don't you worry, folks. There will not be a single second of silence.
No need to worry. Maybe we'll get a crazy like timeout game that we saw. I did clip that. The woman playing, what was she playing? Not Deal or No Deal. What was she playing at the Hawks game?
I have no idea.
We were
watching. Yes. Oh, that was crazy. Yeah, she was playing Family Feud.
Family Feud. Yes.
Yeah, that was insane. Oh my God, I still can't believe that. That was crazy. What did she say again?
I clipped it. I'm gonna have to.
I need you to post
I'm gonna have
that.
to find it. I'll have to find it.
Yeah, it was crazy. She made Oh my God, this is gonna kill me.
It's
all right,
gonna bug me.
Tune into the Palace of Pistons podcast next week when we finally remember this life-changing event that happened to us.
Yes, yeah, it was life. I mean, for a while, the Hawks were shooting so poorly. That was the most exciting thing going for them was that woman. I can't remember what she said. It's gonna kill me. I'm gonna find it as soon as we're off this recording.
Well, the folks are gonna need that clip, and even if they don't, I do, Mike. So
yes, okay. Well, that's gonna do it for this edition of the Palace Pistons podcast. I know it's a quick hitter, but we wanted to talk about Cade being named an All-Star. It's big news, and it's really, like I said, just an organizational triumph. So, with that, we're going to wrap this up. I'd like to thank our sponsor for this week, and that is Bet Online. So definitely check out Bet Online if you haven't yet. They've been a loyal sponsor of ours for a very long time. For my co-host, Jasper Apollonia, I am Mike Anguilano. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of the Palace Pistons podcast, part of the Believe Network, and we will see you all next time.